Hey, I'm Tsunami Steve, and today I just want to give a quick rundown of the 369th Infantry and their inclusion in Battlefield 1. Since the new Battlefield 1 trailer has launched, there's been one minor controversy regarding the inclusion of a Harlem Hellfighter as a main character. Many have said that their inclusion is historically inaccurate, incorrect, SJW agenda pushing, or adding diversity, even though very few black soldiers actually served in combat. Well, they did exist, and they were a very important part of the American involvement in World War I and the period that would come after. Even before World War I, black units served with high distinction, even though the jobs the United States government ordered them to do usually were pretty horrible. They served very honorably. They fought in the Civil War, the Indian Wars, Spanish-American War, the Philippine War, World War I, and World War II. The Buffalo Soldiers, to give one example of an all-black unit, were the most famous out of all these units. Bob Marley had his song about them. They fought in the last engagement of the Indian Wars, fought at the Battle of San Juan Hill with Theodore Roosevelt, fought all the way up to World War II when they were reintegrated into integrated units of black and white soldiers. Despite the lack of recognition that the Buffalo Soldiers still receive to this day, all black units were commonplace before integration and were very distinguished. The Harlem Hellfighters, or the 369th Infantry Regiment, as they were officially known, were referred to as the Harlem Hellfighters and the Men of Bronze by the German Army because they never lost a man through capture, never lost a trench, or any ground to enemy soldiers. They were an all-black unit that was created from the New York National Guard and was also known as the 15th New York National Regiment. They fought in World War I and World War II. They were deployed on December 27, 1917, when they joined up with other black units. They fought in the Second Battle of the Marne and in the Battle of the Argonne Forest. As important as their combat duties were, an arguably more important part of the history of the 369th Infantry was the 369th Regimental Marching Band, which was led by a man named James Reese Europe and traveled Europe extensively after the war, exposing the new music of jazz to Europe, making jazz explode as a genre of music overseas, and as a consequence, many jazz musicians would tour abroad during the 1920s. The music I've been playing in the video, by the way, has all been theirs. The exposure that jazz musicians had to the, for the time, progressive views on race that Europe had created an even deeper desire for freedom and equality. It was one of the major factors in creating the Harlem Renaissance. For more information on that topic specifically, I recommend watching Jazz by Ken Burns. It's a really great documentary. I think it's about 11 or 12 parts, and they're all an hour and a half long. It's a bit long, but if you're into jazz or interested in the history of music, it's a very great documentary to watch. They also saw actions in World War II, some of the worst fighting in the Pacific and New Guinea, alongside British and Australian troops. The unit was reorganized after the war several times until now. It does still exist, where it goes by the name of the 369th Sustainment Brigade. In addition to the Harlem Hellfighters, the 92nd and 93rd Infantry Divisions were all-black units who were the first American units to see combat in Europe, under the command of the French Army, of course, under whom they served with great distinction. The inclusion of a black soldier in Battlefield 1 is quite justified, I believe. The black soldiers that served in World War I were pioneers that inspired many in the Harlem Renaissance, who in turn inspired the civil rights activists all the way to the present day. The fact that they were willing to risk their lives for people that treated them like dirt is an important part of the American experience of the war, and I'm very happy it was included. Thank you for sitting through till the end, and hopefully I'll see all of you again soon.